The mystical American Patriots Society is transmitting to you from beneath 4 million cubic feet of solid granite, in the burning heart of the Yellowstone caldera. This is a variety program for normal sandwich-eating Americans with some concerns about living in a deranged, post-Christian technocracy. So, keep your third eye on the sky and your ear to the ground, as Sumo and Smokestack connect your main brain vein to a higher plane. Are you ready? Stand by.
It doesn't matter what I say, so long as I sing with inflection that makes you feel that I convey some inner truth or fast reflection. But I've said nothing so far. This is my first time playing the song. And I can keep it up as long as it takes. And it don't matter who you are. If I'm doing my job, it's your resolve that breaks. You remember? Are you familiar with this song?
Oh yeah.
'Cause the brings you back. You know what it's about? I ain't telling you no lie.
Not really.
Huh?
I said not really.
No one is, but it's mocking you as this is being sung. Bring you back on that you can rely. So that song I just looked up like 30 seconds before I started the show.
The Blues Traveler guy had a lot of range. Like, that's a hard song to sing.
It's very hard to sing. I think I could do it with a little practice. Let me go. You gotta get your voice to match your instrument.
He did a lot of falsetto too. He was tough.
I'm also not 400 pounds. It helps.
A lot of resonance.
It doesn't matter what I say, so long as I sing with inflection. It's hard to do. This is a hard song. It's hard vocally. That makes you feel it on convey. Anyway, this song is about, it's making fun of you, and it's also expressing his anger at the normies.
All right.
In this song. Because the hook, you know what a hook is?
Yeah, it's like the chorus is like the sweet
It's the
part
chorus.
of that song that gets you pumped
All right,
up.
so let me hit you with these lyrics. It doesn't matter what I say, so long as I sing with inflection. That makes you feel that I'll convey some inner truth or vast reflection. But I've said nothing so far, and I can keep it up as long as it takes. And it doesn't matter who you are, if I'm doing my job, it's your resolve that breaks, because the hook brings you back. Right? And so he's talking about, this is a song written in his frustration. John Popper is an amazing musician. He's my favorite. Have you ever seen him in concert?
No, regrettably.
He is amazing. He, is the harmonica guy.
Yep.
And he wears, what do you call the thing that goes across your chest if you're a Mexican bandito? And
A bandolier.
It's filled with bullets. He wears a bandolier of harmonicas across his chest.
Oh, it's so boss.
And because, each harmonica is, you can't tune harmonicas. Harmonicas are just in different keys.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got every key of a harmonica. And I watched him do one solo across like 3 or 4 keys, and he was just, and he's just flipping them in and out of his bandolier, and then but it was so fast he had to throw some away without putting them back, It was incredible. Never seen anyone do harmonica like that. I think he actually has a PhD in harmonica, which is impressive. I think that's true. He went to like a legit music school and did a PhD, and they were like, "What instrument are you doing?" And he's like, "Harmonica."
Dr. Popper.
Yeah, and Anyway, his lyrics and much of his songs are very intense and intellectual.
Mm-hmm.
And they cover things like, there's like Bagheera, one of my favorites. It's about the cat from the Jungle Book.
Yeah.
And all those things. But he wasn't making money with that. And the people kept telling him, you need to write just a pop song that normies will like. And he's like, I don't want to do that. That's selling my soul for art, right? But then he finally gave in. Mm-hmm. And this is the song he wrote. The hook brings you back. The album 4, which is called 4. Second verse is, there's something amiss. I am being insincere. In fact, I don't mean any of this. Still my confession draws you near. To confess the issue, I refer to familiar heroes from long ago. No matter how much Peter loved her, what made the pan refuse to grow was the hook. And so there, just to break down Popper songs, almost every album he has a reference to Peter Pan in.
Huh.
Where Peter, the hook refused to grow. One of his is Straight On Till Morning. It's got the 2 stars because, you know, in Peter Pan, to get to Neverland, you second star and you Straight On Till Morning.
Right.
Every one of them has a Peter Pan reference. And so what made no matter how much Peter loved her, what made the pan refuse to grow was the hook, right? So it's the chorus of the song. But then he's comparing it to Captain Hook, right? Which was pan refused to grow because he saw what grown-ups could turn into, which was Captain Hook.
Yeah.
Because Captain Hook got part of his body taken by time, the crocodile with the watch in it. And he's always running away from death. And this drives him manic and insane. So Peter decides rather than grow up, he will just remain the lost boy forever. But you can't do that. You know, it doesn't work. And you can't love a woman that way. And Wendy can't stay with him because he has to be stuck with Tinkerbell, the fairy of porn. That's really what it is. And then he goes on, and then of course his thing, suck it in, suck it in, suck it in. If you're in Tintin or Amberlin, make a desperate move or else you'll win, and then begin to see what you'll do to me. This MTV is not for free, it's soapy, see, it's killing me. So desperate I'll sing to thee of love, sure, but also rage and hate and pain and fear of self. And I can't keep these feelings on the shelf. I've tried, well no, in fact I lied. Could be financial suicide, but I've got too much pride inside to hide or slide. I'll do as I decide and let it ride until I've died. Only then will I abide this tide of catchy little tunes, of hip 3-minute ditties. I want to bust all your balloons. I want to burn all of your cities to the ground. I found I will not. So he's saying, I don't want to do this stupid hip 3-minute tunes in little ditties.
Right, yeah.
You know? Because that's not what he was about. But, you know, that's what he had to do to make money. So this is song I always enjoy because people sing it and they like to listen to it, and they bop around to it, never noticing. And he's not being cagey about it. He's like, you're a dummy, but I'm singing this to you because you're going to pay for it, you dummy.
And he's right.
And you're not even going to notice, you dummy. And that's how many of the so-called elites feel about you every day.
Mm-hmm.
And they're sort of right because you don't notice, you dummy. You just don't notice. And I thought about that song that I was having trouble singing because Popper's range is not the same as mine. I think I could do it if I was in a different key, but whatever. I was thinking about that because I was watching a little somebody named... I'll give you some hints. Listener, you can play along too. He's a professional on the television.
Mm-hmm.
He works for a media company.
Okay.
He's CIA trained.
Mm-hmm.
Not even quiet about it. He goes by a different name than the name of his family, which was the Vanderbilts.
Mm-hmm.
Who could he be?
Does his fake name rhyme with Pooper?
It does rhyme with Pooper. He's Banderson Pooper.
I knew it!
It's good old Banderson Pooper. No, yeah, Anderson Cooper, of course. Did you happen to catch him on the Stephen Colbert show? By the way, are you going to talk about dating segment today?
No, I don't have a dating segment today.
Okay, I just wondering. I didn't know what we were doing.
I think we wound that down after the rooster thing. It seemed like a good place to stop. Unless any listeners, they can write me a dear smokestack, but otherwise.
That's okay. Okay, I just didn't know what was going on. But Anderson Pooper was on the Stephen Colbert show. No one watches any of these people anymore. that their audiences are nothing.
Yeah.
But they keep them on because they toe the party line, A, and B, who are they going to replace them with? Someone less popular? These are the last vestiges of people that had fame before the internet really was a thing. Like social media and stuff, and YouTube stars.
Yep.
And how are you going to make a new cable star now?
I think their only purpose is to just, like, transmit the day's thinking points.
That is the only purpose, but like my point is, like, if you wanted to make a new Stephen Colbert or a new Jon Stewart, what are you gonna do? No one's watching now.
Yeah.
And if they put on a new guy and they're like, "Hey, just watch the new guy," everyone's like, "But YouTube is here."
Well, it's funny because Colbert was supposed to be the new Jon Stewart, and he was like half of the Jon Stewart, and Jon Stewart still has to prop him up. And then if somebody comes along to replace Colbert, he'll just be half of what he was. I mean,
Jon Stewart, also not his real name, much like Anderson Pooper.
Oh.
Jon Stewart's name is like Mowinowitz or something. It's John Mowinowitz, or it's not Mowinowitz, but it's some name like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Something that ends in a witz.
Mm-hmm.
And all these people are pretending to be someone they're not. And they're all the... just sort of lying to you, but I saw, shout out to Paul from Pockets of the Future. Are you familiar?
No.
He has popular YouTube, Pockets of the Future. He's a good conspiracy guy, but not really. He's more of his whole channel's message is like, look at these people. Look at all these people. These people are crazy. You should not fear them nor be envious of their lives in any way, and here's how to be at peace.
Awesome.
He lives in India with his family, and they have a homestead in India. And he moved to India for some reason. I don't know. I think because it was cheap, and he's into some sort of meditation school.
Okay.
I don't know, but anyway, his videos are not. But he brings up these people, and he brought up this clip of Anderson Pooper talking to Stephen Colbert, and it was disturbing on many levels. And again, the normies, just like in the song, the hook, went over their heads.
Yep.
It just went over their heads. Like, the hook brings you back. It doesn't matter what I say, as long as I speak with inflection. It makes you feel that I'll convey some inner truth or vast reflection, but I've said nothing so far, and I can keep it up as long as it takes. That's the whole game. Right? It's the emotional. That's why music can be such a... And that's why the devil plays a golden fiddle. The devil went down to Georgia. Because music, you can say horrible things in an emotional way.
Yep.
And it slides over people like nothing.
Yep.
That's like all the commercials that have the soft music. Boop, 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 boop. We're making a new tomorrow. Boop, 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 boop. We're going to build back better. Boop, 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 boop. We're going to replace your heart with a machine. Boop, 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 doo, doo. It's so great. Boop, 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 boop. Everyone's going to be poor. Doo, 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 doo. And that's good. Doo, doo, doo. And everyone's like, oh, yeah. It's a form of hypnosis. It's a form of hypnosis, the music. And if you think you can't be hypnotized, you're the most hypnotized. It
does sound like that music that they play does always sound kind of like a metronome, happily skipping along.
Yeah, I mean, the news used to start with a countdown.
Yeah. And or 60 minutes with the ticking clock.
Yeah, our ticking clock. It's like, how much more obvious can you be? But again, it doesn't matter what I say, so long as I speak with inflection. Because you're so low vibrational consciousness. I've transformed. I mentioned on Twitter that I was transitioning into my transition into a new age guru.
Oh no!
I've started picking up some of these speeches, this manner of speaking. This is my understanding. My understanding is that this is a low vibration. This is why. But also, I was listening to some of these people, and yes, they are all scammers. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them are scammers. But some of the language they use is useful, like low consciousness.
Yeah.
Because they are low consciousness if you don't see what's happening. So, let's listen to Anderson Pooper talk to Stephen Colbert about when his son, his new 1-year-old son, first learned to walk.
turned one.
Yeah, he turned one April 27th. He turned 1 year old.
Is he talking?
He talks in a dialect of Hindi or Urdu. I'm not sure, but it's incredible. It's a really interesting dialect. I'm trying to understand exactly what it is. But it doesn't make any sense at this point, but he's very committed to it.
Look at those eyes.
I know.
The eyes do not fall far from the dad there.
I know. But so just for the first time, I was away in Israel last week. It was my first work trip for 60 Minutes, and I was doing an interview, and I get this text from Wyatt's other dad, Benjamin, and he said, he just walked! Exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Yeah, you would think that would be my reaction. My reaction was fury. That I was like, I can't believe I missed this, that I'm doing this interview and in Israel of all places. And secondly, then I got really pissed at Benjamin I was like, in my household when I grew up, you would lie about everything. So, like, he should have just lied, and he shouldn't have said he just walked. He should have lied and said, oh no, he's not walking at all. Mm-hmm. So when I got home and he walked, we would all be like, oh my God, it's the first walk.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
But the thing is,
and he walks
missing your child's first walk,
right,
proves you are a father.
I know exactly. Yes.
In my house, you would just lie.
That's
laugh track. Isn't that disturbing?
It's so awful.
But see, that's the thing. It's just if you say it with a smile and you're a good-looking guy, and Anderson Cooper is a good-looking guy, people just like, oh yeah. And that's why John Popper has such snarling hatred of you.
Mm-hmm.
And of me. I've been that person too.
Yeah.
You know, he wants to burn all your cities to the ground. He's found he will not mess around. But think about that for a second. Okay, so first of all, Anderson Cooper has no need of money.
No.
He's set. Right? Leave aside his irregular method of having a baby, which is he used a surrogate that no one knows who she is. I don't know. It is his biological child. Okay. He has no, but why then did he just feel the need to, he's like 53 or something. Rather than, he's like, okay, I've got a late start as a father. I'm going to be here for this kid. He says, I'm going to leave the 1-year-old and go to Israel and talk about Gaza.
Yeah.
And then he's like, but if he does anything that's a memento while I'm gone, just lie about it. Imagine the narcissism.
I know.
In this, like, my child's milestones are about me. Because he doesn't say, like, I was a little upset, I was disappointed, I missed it, which would be understandable, you know.
Yeah, you can have mixed feelings, you know.
Yeah, you can have feeling, but he's like, I had fury.
Yeah.
Not just I was angry, I had fury. And everyone laughs. He's like, you think that would be it? You think it'd be, no, I was fury. And everyone's like, ha, 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 silly. But I had fury. And I could, because I was like, just lie to me. In my house growing up, we would lie. And that's true. That's why you have to, these people on the media and everyone that's lying to you, you need to know what they're doing so you can not fall for it. But don't fall into the other trap of hating them. Or even getting that mad. Because Anderson Cooper, I guarantee, was abused in 1,000 different ways as a child.
Yeah.
If you grow up the son of, what was her name, Gloria Vanderbilt?
Mm-hmm.
That's like growing up the son of one of the Rothschilds.
Yeah.
I mean, it is not...
They're not just wealthy. They're a global power family.
They're a global power family, and this is one of the reasons that Jesus said it's hard for a rich man to get to heaven. Because above a certain level of wealth, the only way you get there is to be evil. In not every case, but in a lot of cases. Like, if you're a doctor, you can make, like, doctor money, surgeon money, and not be evil. You can make CEO of a pretty successful... But at some point... You're going to have, if people are like, listen, listen, your search engine's great. You want to take it to the next level? You want us to give you access? You're going to have to make some deals with the devil here, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
And the Vanderbilts did that in spades. The Vanderbilts had a lot of... there are a lot of things about the Vanderbilts. I mean, Jay, you could go down the Vanderbilts for forever.
Yeah, there's a lot of rabbit holes on that one.
Like for instance, Anderson Cooper's brother, who died under mysterious circumstances, they said was a suicide.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it much like the Kennedys.
Yep.
Like, you know, John Kennedy's sister, she slept around a little too much in college, and so her family gave her a lobotomy.
Oh man, that is so messed up.
John Kennedy's father took his sister, put her to a surgeon, put her to sleep, and removed part of her brain so she wouldn't be scandalous in the public if she got caught walking out of some guy's house at 3 a.m. by a paparazzi.
And she was a messed up, like, she wasn't a vegetable, but lobotomized people, you're not normal after that.
No, she was basically mentally retarded after that. I mean, like, it wasn't even a good lobotomy.
Right.
And that's the sort of family that gets into power at that level.
Yep.
And I use power, I'm doing air quotes, because it's not really. It's just you think it is. And that's the Vanderbilts, that's the Rothschilds, that's the Soroses, that's the Clintons, that's the Bushes, maybe the Trumps.
Yeah.
That's how like the Bidens.
Yeah.
Think about,
just read some of the text messages, Hunter's text messages. That family is psycho.
They are in hell right now. Mm-hmm. That's why you shouldn't be, like Paul points this out, like don't be, people get mad and because they think like they're living this life of Riley and they're like squashing people. A, if you just sort of ignore them, there's not much they can do. And then B, they are suffering more than anybody. Like, one, Biden's kids are dead except for Hunter. And that's not, like I mentioned on the other show, quote unquote powerful people, for some reason have kids die a lot.
Lots of dead kids, yeah.
Lots of them. Way more than the general population. Is it a form of child sacrifice? Could it be? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it isn't. But it's weird. Like I say, Anderson Cooper's brother, he's gone. But then, like, just this stuff that, you just know that there was some sort of sexual abuse in the Biden household.
Yeah.
You know that it was there in the Clinton household. You know, in the book, it's always there, and they have such deep, like, you can't, being mad at Anderson Cooper is like being mad at a child that was in Abu Ghraib.
Yeah.
You know, it's like he can't, because he says it right there. He's like, in my house, he lived in a house where no one ever told the truth about anything ever. And this is, but you have to understand, this is also the face of CNN. A guy that's like, if things are unpleasant, just lie. Mm-hmm. If they're unpleasant, just lie. That's the moral thing to do. That's what people want, is they want lies. And a lot of people do want lies.
Yeah. Like, he's in the perfect job.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is, and that attitude is so prevalent. That's what you have to understand. Like, the red pills really are, someone said this, a success. Being red pilled is a succession of saying, yes, they really could be that evil. Mm-hmm. And you say it again at a little higher pitch, and again at a little higher pitch. But that, because they, when you're just lying like that, so the religion of these people, of these quote unquote elites, and they're not, but just that's what the term people use. That itself is a psyop to make you think they're elite, but they're not. They believe in like this, basically this occultism of you speak it into existence, right? And whatever you say, your word creates reality. Mm-hmm. And that's true to a point, right? But in their minds, like one of their core tenets if you talk to like Masons and stuff, is like, well, if no one knows about it, how's that different from it never happening?
Mm-hmm.
And you say, you're a sneaky guy, aren't you? You're a problem. Like if someone says that, if no one knows about it, what's the difference the difference between that and it never happening?
Mm-hmm.
Don't associate with that person because they are messed up.
Yep.
But they believe that because they have this thing that like consciousness is everything, and it may be, but in a different way. But so they're like, if no one knows, like they're like, just take an extreme example. If you kill someone and no one ever finds out they're dead, no one ever knows. How is that any different from them just disappearing?
Mm-hmm.
You know? Or that's why this idea of the narrative and controlling the narrative, because it's like, if people just believe it, that's the truth. And that's why Cuomo can get up there and be like, oh yeah, the nursing home thing, and then like a month later say that did not happen.
Yep.
And he just says it, and he just keeps saying it, and in their minds, if you just say it and enough people believe it, it's the same thing. So it's like,
well, he keeps not getting arrested, so it's working on some level.
It's working out. So it's like they believe that if they're lying, if they lie hard enough, it stops being a lie. They really believe that.
Yeah.
That's what you have to understand. They don't believe in objective truth outside of your own mind, and they don't think that you do either, or that you're stupid and do.
It's like you're battling with the rest of the universe for like narrative voltage.
Yes, it's like if I give my will, they talk about their will all the time. If I give my will enough power, I affect what really happened.
And it's like the highest power narrative becomes the reality.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, which is why they have such a problem with conspiracy theorists, because we go, and it doesn't, because their lies are so weak that even one person going, is that true?
Yeah, they can't take it.
It starts to shatter the whole thing, because lies, that's not how it works, actually. Lies are a house of cards. And this is also why people get stuck in these, because if they admit it, their whole life and world comes crumbling down.
Yeah.
That, like, at a certain point, you stop being able to tell the truth. Because if you do, this giant edifice that you've built up of your quote-unquote reality just falls apart.
I'm beginning to suspect that when you challenge somebody's worldview and they lose their mind about your differing opinion, I'm beginning to think that those people aren't really sure. Like if they were sure, if they were sure it was real, what they believed was true, they wouldn't lose their mind over hearing a disagreement. But if they were full of doubt over it, but instead of objectively evaluating their worldview, they can't handle the pain of it not being true, so they won't look it in the face. And then when they hear some challenging narrative, they lose it. That's pain avoidance.
Yep.
They're avoiding the pain that
it.
they know is going to come if they're forced to look at that belief honestly.
You nailed it. I think that's what hell is. It's like when you die and you're unable to keep up the lie anymore, and you look the truth in the face, and then that pain of like everything that you built is just being eradicated.
Yeah.
But people. This is why I try not to anyway. I don't get into theological arguments. I'll discuss things, or I even stop getting into ideological arguments, because like if people get mad about it, that's a tell that they are not sure.
Yeah.
Like when you see Catholics arguing with Orthodox people so hard,
I get so tired of that.
I do too, but you detect in it, they're each like, they've put up a wall of like, I'm not quite certain, and I don't like people thinking the other thing that's so close to me, but it's like, because if it's so far out there, like if you're a Zoroastrian or something, but if someone it's close to what you believe, but then there's like a key couple of elements they don't, and you're like, that makes you uncomfortable.
Those are the bitterest fights, and the fights never benefit anybody.
They don't.
Like honest discussion is so precious. Like in good faith discussion with somebody of a differing viewpoint is so hard to come by and so precious. But then these stupid fights that people get in, I mean Christians, but everybody.
Everybody. I mean, that's the whole internet.
It's so worthless, and it's just such a waste of brain space. It's awful. Yeah.
Well, but because our society is so built on lie after lie after lie after lie after lie, everyone has a worldview, and they have to defend it at all costs, because if they don't, it just...
Yeah.
I mean, there are legitimately people that Memorial Day, and this is the Mystical American Patriot Society. I love America. I want the best for America. But they got out there and they were like, the land of the free and the home of the brave, after they just, for 2020, lived like slaves.
Yeah.
And absolute cowards.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But they still need this to be like, we're the land of the free and the home of the brave. I'm like, what, free? You were under house arrest for like 18 months.
Yep.
What are you talking about? But people, it doesn't matter what I say, so long as I speak with inflection. The land of the free. It doesn't matter. Like that song. So it's like, that's exactly true. It doesn't matter. It's just the emotional weight behind it. And people think that makes things real, but it doesn't. And you know that it doesn't on some level, and that's why you get so defensive. That's why they just cannot. This is why a lot of conspiracy theorists are so well-adjusted people. Because we reach a stage where it's like, I don't even care if I'm right anymore. I just am interested in what is real.
Or it's like, I don't care if anybody believes me.
Yeah, like if once you get to that stage, you really have ascended to a different level of consciousness. Like, I don't care if anyone believes me, and I care about being right, obviously, because I want to be accurate, but I don't care about being wrong. Like, I don't experience shame for thinking something that was incorrect.
Yeah.
Because then you're just like, I just changed my mind later if I come to new insight. But so many people, like, consciousness is rising. That's my understanding. We're all climbing up to the fifth dimension here. But it really is. Like, I was thinking, we should say that we were on Boiler Room last night. That was
a lot of fun. Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. This is our
Thank you, Hesher and Spore. We enjoyed doing campfire time with you.
We did. We went on Boiler Room, which is the flagship show of ACR, the network we're on, Alternate Current Radio. Great show. And they just had us on to talk. We just hung out and we talked about weird stuff and weird personal stories and our ideas about the paranormal and and it was a great time. But you have to get to a point where you're like, it's fine to be wrong. Like, it's okay. And then you just bring up, because then you can really think, Well,
it's funny because, like, last night on Boiler Room, I could say if we got down to brass tacks about our metaphysical beliefs, we would probably have plenty to argue about between the four of us. But did we argue? No, not at all. We just enjoyed the discussion and one another's company, and it's okay that, me and Spore have different ideas about what separates a gnome and a leprechaun.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Yeah. Like, she doesn't have to believe me that leprechauns are not extant in America,
Right.
It's
now,
fine.
she is wrong about that.
But that's okay.
That's okay.
That's okay.
It's okay that she's wrong. And it's okay that we're wrong. It's okay that I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And it's okay that you're wrong, listener. Just, you got to leave that aside. Because reality is going to be real, and God is going to be real, regardless of whether or not you are correct about what that looks like.
Yep. Amen.
There's going to be something. The real is real, and the real is love. See, I'm my guru.
Now you're going off into La La Land.
I know. Well, but that is true though. Like, it's the real thing at the base is, I think, love. God is love.
Well, it's like there's very little you have to be right about to be saved. It doesn't take much.
Yeah, and you don't. It's not dependent on your intellectual abilities.
Yeah.
Like your ability to figure out,
or like the precision of your arguments or your debate skills.
It's just
it's not. That's not what gets you to heaven.
Everyone relax.
Yeah.
But see, they can't do that. Anderson Cooper, he grew up in a world where everything you ever imagine that as a child, like you're growing up in a house with the Vanderbilts where everything's a lie. And as a little kid, you believe it. You're like, yeah. And then gradually you start to say, oh, that's not. And then one day it dawns on you like, oh, everyone's lying to me. This is how people operate. They don't tell the truth.
Yeah. Like,
They
what's
lie.
truth? You know, what is
And that
truth?
probably hits you when you're like 12, maybe.
Right.
And you're like, oh, I see. We're just supposed to lie. And that's how you create that sort of. So you can't be. You don't be mad at it. But just understand that's what it is, and that everything that comes out of their mouth could very well be a lie because they think that's moral and that's the correct way to act.
Right. Yeah. It's just. I know we've already said this, but it's so just striking to me that the guy of CNN is espousing just lying to people because that's what they want to hear.
Yeah, I know, and it even more is that the crowd's just like, yeah,
and everybody claps like circus seals
Yeah.
with like a ball in their nose. It's ridiculous.
because they're low consciousness.
Man.
That new age term is 100% appropriate. They're low conscious. They're not aware of what they're doing. You know, and then at the end when Stephen Colbert's like, well, you know, not being there with your kid is how you prove you are a father. Ha ha ha. It's like, what?
Right.
What's wrong with you, Stephen?
Yeah.
What skeletons are in your closet, you weirdo?
Yeah.
I bet there are some.
Well, you don't get into that spot without there being. I mean,
No.
everybody's owned.
Yeah.
You know.
Yes.
You got to do your deal with the devil.
Everybody's owned. And that's why BlackRock's buying up all the houses. Because you're already sort of owned. Why didn't they just make you serfs?
Yeah.
You know, are you familiar with this story?
You don't need to own a home, man. Just rent. You're
Yeah.
gonna move 27 times anyway. And it's like, it's not that great. It's a hassle of an investment. You know, you'd be better off with a cool retirement plan from some sweet government job or working from some big tech corporation, you know? Mm-hmm. You don't need to build intergenerational wealth. You don't have to leave anything to your children. You probably shouldn't even have them. You know?
Yeah.
Like, what's this inheritance stuff anyway? Why not just let if you have a kid, which is stupid, just they'll figure it out. They'll get a job for a corporation that'll take good care of them.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
if you notice the psyop where they would feed middle class people of like, don't leave your kids anything because that spoils them and teaches them not to work hard.
Oh man.
And then all of
that is so evil.
Like Bill Gates is like, I'm not giving my kids anything, and then meanwhile they're all just setting up giant trust funds.
Oh yeah.
It's not what you do. If
No,
you
like
love your
that's
kids.
how you destroy one of the. There's a few things that like hold a civilization together, and one of them is generations of a family passing down the value of all their work that they've accrued over the course of their life to their children.
Right.
Like if you don't have that, you don't have a civilization. You have basically a slave colony. That's what separates a citizen from a slave in many ways is the ability to build an estate and then pass it to your heirs.
Yeah. 100. If brass tacks, that's usually what it is. Exactly.
Like that's more important than voting. You know, that's more important than free speech.
In fact, voting doesn't matter at all.
No, democracy's friggin' fake.
It's fake.
Don't get me started. Gosh.
Voting is fake. It doesn't change anything. Even if all the votes are 100% counted all the time, doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't do anything because the culture is more important. But so that was they're like, oh yeah, but if you're already owned spiritually and mentally, it makes sense that then that transfers over into the physical and economic, and it's like, well, just make everybody serfs.
Yeah.
If you're not familiar, listener, what we're talking about is the BlackRock. What are they? An investment firm?
Yes, they're one of the big three: BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard, and there's maybe one other that are they're hoarding
like
up
an asset management company.
Yeah, and they're buying up. So there's a lot of companies that own like single family home rentals, you know, as investment companies, and so BlackRock is both buying up individual homes to put into their rental portfolio, but they're buying up whole companies that own many homes. So, you can wonder about why they're doing this right now, and there's probably some good theories, but it's interesting that there's plenty of messaging out there in normie media of, we don't need to, like, what's so great about home ownership anyway? Maybe it's better if we're a nation of renters, while BlackRock is like vacuuming up all the real estate. It's nuts. It's nuts. But if you think about it, especially in today's economy, owning real estate is one of the only ways you can actually make any money on an investment anymore. Like, the return in the stock market sucks. The inflation rate is way higher than advertised. Unless you're like an all-star day trader, which most people don't have the ability for that. I don't. But if you just like go open an account with some, retail brokerage firm and like buy mutual funds, you might make 5, 6, 7% a year. Your inflation is higher than that. Yeah. Like, you're losing money. The only investment you can really make money on anymore is real estate. And right now it's being, the middle class is being divested of the real estate. I mean, there's people trying to buy houses out there that are getting contract broken on them because investment firms are coming in offering like 20% over asking price.
Yeah.
It's bonkers out there.
Yes. And what they were going to, this is, let's play another clip. I want to play another clip, and I'm going to connect them. Can we play the one about, with the climate lockdown?
Yep.
So we're learning more now about the sad toll of the corona lockdowns in this country. According to Joe Biden, we could get another round of lockdowns. These for a crisis that's every bit as bad as the coronavirus, maybe worse. That crisis, of course, says Joe Biden, is climate change.
Today, I'm pleased to announce a team that will lead my administration's ambitious plan to address the existential threat of our time, climate change. Folks, we're in a crisis. Just like we need to be a unified nation in response to COVID-19, we need a unified national response to climate change. And from this crisis, from these crises, I should say, we need to seize the opportunity to build back and build back better than we were before.
A unified national response. It's involuntary. That's the one thing we know. What does it mean? Well, we're learning that a World Health Organization staffer has written a report saying that a climate lockdown could be called for. Just like a COVID lockdown, a climate lockdown. Mark Morano is an author who has written a lot about climate change. He founded Climate Depot. He joins us tonight. Mark, thanks so much for coming on. A climate lockdown. Now, I would laugh this off the table, except we all just lived through the last 18 months, so we know that anything is possible. What does this mean exactly?
Well, in my book, Green Fraud, I detail 2 chapters on this, Tucker. This is the climate activists were, first of all, jealous when the COVID lockdowns happened. They were beside themselves saying, how is this happening? Everyone from Greta Thunberg to John Kerry, UN officials. And then they started saying, we need to follow this. If we can shut down for a virus, we can shut down for climate. And that's what we're seeing. There's even academics in Australia proposing adding climate change to death certificates.
So, you shouldn't have gone along with it, like we said.
Yep.
Because if you go along with nonsense, they own you.
Yep. It never stops.
You have to, you make yourself a serf mentally and spiritually, and then it just must happen that you fall into that economically. You can't play the role of the serf and not become the serf. It doesn't work like that. That's not how reality works. You must be more afraid of, oh no, someone at the restaurant is gonna fuss at me because I didn't put on a mask when I got it from the table. Versus, you need to have that in your head, versus they're going to literally remove the ability of anyone to buy a house.
Yep. Right. Put in other terms, if you don't resist this, you and your family are going to be impoverished a little chunk at a time over the next however many years.
Yeah. Like, and that's not an exaggeration. They're going to take everything you have. They want everything. They're going to get it unless you say no. And so when you do like ridiculous stuff, like it's one thing to have like mask rules and stuff. It's another when they have blatantly and on purpose nonsense contradictions in them. Like,
Yep.
look, we're going to catch it if we walk to the table without a mask, but then everyone's going to sit around without one. And then when you get up to go to the bathroom, but if you have a drink in your hand, you don't have to. And if you're outside, but then 6 feet apart, but then not. And then if you're in a pod, it's in your social pod, and then none of it is in any way consistent. Right? And everyone knows that and knew that the whole time.
Yep.
But they did it because there was a dumb sign on the door. The sign doesn't mean it's just words on a piece of paper.
But the part you need to understand, the powerful part of this is that you're participating in something that you know is fake and stupid.
Yes.
That's it. It's if they can get you to do something retarded that you know means nothing, and you just do it because you want to eat at Chewy's Mexican Grill tonight, right? And you don't want to have to go across the street, and so you do it. They've got you. Yeah, that was the goal.
That's the goal. That's how they break. That's literally a torture technique. I mean, that's not even an exaggeration. It's to make people agree with nonsense. It's like in that Star Trek episode. Now I'm going to nerd out as a Star Trek person, where the Romulans capture Picard and they give him 4 lights and they torture him until he says there are 3.
Mm-hmm.
He says, "How many lights are there?" 4. Torture, torture, torture. How many lights are there? 4. Torture, torture, torture. And then, but he wants to say, he's like, no, 3. Once you start agreeing, and that's literally out of like torture manuals.
Yep.
From like the Soviet Union and everywhere, like Pol Pot.
2 + 2 equals 5.
2 + 2 does equal 5. You need to say that. Say it. Say 2 + 2 is 5. Say a man is a woman.
Yeah.
Just say
it.
Man. And then if you don't want to be shamed, do you?
Yep.
People will think bad of you.
You're going to lose your job, buddy.
It's like, yeah, but it's like, understand it's a choice
won't.
between losing, you probably won't, but understand if you do, it's a choice between losing your job and losing your life.
Yeah.
Like, they may not kill you, but you'll just be a slave.
Yeah.
This is why they talk so much about slavery 100+ years ago, because they want to distract you from the fact that they're doing it right now.
Amen.
I mean, that's what it is. Like, and they all of the terms, all the history is all they just these little, because they believe that if they say it, then it makes it true. Keep that in mind. Like, you look up, I was thinking about this thing of like, it's neo serfdom basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading up on the serf system and feudal system, and I noticed that in the Wikipedia now they say the serfs were unfree laborers. Like, huh? Unfree laborers?
That's double plus ungood.
Isn't that just a slave? Don't we have a word for that? But see, you don't want to say that other people were slaves before, especially people going into the same economic scenario that you're about to go in, because that would make you think twice.
It's interesting. Like, if you take the concept of slavery and like intellectually circumscribe it to this tiny, not tiny, but this very specific group of people at a very specific time in the history of one country, and then you don't apply it anywhere else, you come up with other terms, then the slavery going on right now never gets called as such, because there's not like a rhetorical spot to put it, because the word slavery only means like this one particular thing that happened 100 whatever years ago.
Right.
Like that even that is to distract you from what's going on right now.
Yeah, and you know what they try to be like? Because see, serfs were a condition of debt bondage, primarily.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's, what do you think America's waltzing into right now in mass?
Yep.
Debt bondage. And there's this great story in the 90s. It was this book. It wasn't in the 90s, before that. But it was this. Maybe Terry Pratchett wrote it. I don't remember, but it had some disturbing elements in it. But the thing was, there was this group going around, and you realized toward the end that they were like demons in human form, which may not be so far from the truth. But they were going around to these little farms around the countryside of this world, and they were offering everyone like incredible sums of money for their farms. And people were like, yeah, of course, like 10 times what it was worth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they'd sell it, and then they'd be like, this is great. And they go out and they'd find out there was nothing for sale. It's like, oh, yeah, you have all the money, but there's nothing for sale anymore. And they're like, what? Yeah, we're not selling anything. We bought up all the land, but we're not selling it, ever. So,
yep.
And that is sort of like BlackRock, which is funded by the Federal Reserve. They, in part,
it's like all the free loans you want.
They get the Federal Reserve just types some numbers into a computer, and then they get money to buy houses out of thin air, and then they say, we're going to pay you 20% what it's worth. Sell us your house, and they go around America, and then they're buying up whole neighborhoods in some places.
Oh yeah,
people are like, yeah, that's a good deal. That sounds good. I want that. This is why housing prices are out of control right now.
Mm-hmm.
But when you sell it, like there's been a lot of people that have done this. They sell their house and they can't find another one because the rest of them are so expensive.
Yep.
It's like when you sell it, then you become it's like you're not gonna stop worshiping the dollar.
Yep.
The dollars aren't real. They're just green pieces of paper. The real thing is like the land and your family and like the food you eat. The other stuff is not. You got to get away from that because that's the path to serfdom, which they're like, oh, it's not slavery. And the first thing Wikipedia does is tell you why it's not slavery over and over again in 1,000 ways. Like, oh, yeah, they weren't free. Like, there's this great paragraph. Unlike slaves, serfs could not be bought, sold, or traded individually, though they could be, depending on the area, bought and sold together with the land. So, not only, but see, that's worse.
But they're not slaves.
That's worse. It's like, well, the slave and the piece of ground he's on are a package.
Yeah.
At least the African slaves could move.
Yeah, like you're not even a person. You're like a geographical feature.
The serf, that's worse.
Yeah.
But they describe it in this like because they don't want to be like, oh, most of Europe was also in slavery. Because most of the world has been in slavery since the dawn of time.
Yep.
Because what slavery is people going along with nonsense, getting into debt, and then you always just waltz into it. Very rarely, yes, in history, there's been times where like warlords come in and they take over and they make everyone slaves. But even in that case, like people that were useful and could do things very quickly found themselves not living very much like slaves.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, that guy can do things, so that's fine. But everyone in America now is useless. And they go along with nonsense all the time, and then they get mad at people that don't.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, and then they're gonna by 2030, the World Economic thing is gonna go into effect. You really can't stop it because you see what the people. It doesn't matter what we say as long as we sing with inflection. Most people are so low consciousness. There's not going to be any resistance, but you don't have to, listener. You don't have to be a serf. It really, you can yourself exclude yourself from this to a degree that might surprise you. But don't expect the rest of the population to go along with you, or even they will dislike you for not being a slave because your existence points out how silly they are being.
Yeah. It's the same thing. The people that got mad at you for not wearing a mask,
They're gonna get mad at you for not being sold with your land.
And don't write people off because people change. Mm-hmm. I changed early on in the course of COVID. Like I went through a big change of heart on a lot of things.
Yeah.
And so I always want to give people the opportunity to change. But just don't be surprised when people that you care about are going to flip out at you for not going along with something that you should not be going along with. And just you got to decide to be okay with it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love the Wikipedia. You just read how propagandized the serfdom article on Wikipedia is. The next paragraph is like, the kulops in Russia and the villeins in gross England, in contrast, could be traded like slaves, could be abused with no rights of their own, bodies, could not leave the land they were bound to, and could marry only with their lord's permission. That they're still not slaves.
They're not slaves, though. Yeah.
They could be bought and sold.
Slavery doesn't happen anymore. It was just that one time.
They could be beaten. They could not marry without permission, and they could not leave the land they were on. Like, they couldn't walk off the property. But that's not slavery.
No.
And you're not going to be a slave either. You're all nothing and be happy in the pod with the bugs.
Yep.
Because they want you to think that slavery is something that's like done by force.
And only done because of racism or something.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
It's done by sin and debt.
Greed. Yeah.
And greed. And you being lazy and not wanting to just
Yeah.
have your own chickens. Grow your own cotton.
Most people that ended up in slavery throughout human history did so because they got in debt.
That's true.
Plain and simple.
Yeah, the war party coming through and storming through and taking slaves happened, but most of slavery was debt-based, and always has been.
Yeah, and in the war party thing, you only ended up a slave if you didn't fight.
Yeah.
Like, if you just lay down your arms and stick your hands up and don't fight, then yeah, you might get taken as a slave. But if you fight, you'll either win or you'll lose.
Right. Yeah. So, this show is helping you in so many ways, listener. It's good. We may save you from serfdom. Just keep hanging out with us. Right? So, that's the BlackRock thing. This is sort of a political roundup show. There were so many things to talk about, and we hadn't gotten to them. So I thought we should talk about it. The other ones, which are, again, connected. I love the last bit. You're going to put climate change on the death certificates.
Yeah, he died
Could
of
they
climate
be any
change.
more obvious that they're just lying about what people die of? People
So
it's on the death certificate that people died of COVID. Well,
that's actually very telling. Like that's an important point there, because you can start watching for last month X number of people died from climate change.
Yeah.
You know, we've got to get that number down below 5,000. You know, we got to do some lockdowns and get the CO2 balance. They're trying to transition climate change control to the same sort of managerial, like, line go up, line go down, we respond to it sort of thing as COVID was. That's what this transition is about. That's why Biden paired the two things together.
And they will probably succeed, because most of America goes along with nonsense without any complaining.
Yep.
You know, it's so easy. It's like, most of the time it's just a sign on a stupid door. It's just a sign that's like, you got to do this because it's a sign.
Yeah.
It's like, have you not, it's like Rosa, I just started telling people I was Rosa Parks. Like,
I've ignored so many thousands of signs over the last year, and nothing happened. Nothing
People
happened.
have been ignoring signs their whole lives. You ignore the speed limit every day.
Yeah.
Everyone is like, what are you talking about? There's a sign. But people are, it was such a, because they got you with the shame and the fear, like, you may kill grandma. What if you are spreading COVID? This and that.
Yeah, like, of the thousands of signs I ignored, I got kicked out of establishments 2 times over the last year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really, I don't care. That's fine. I'll get kicked out of 2 establishments a year for that. No problem.
Yes, I agree. You know, but this I had an epiphany thinking about how people did all this. You know, how they just went along with nonsense, and they did. Mm-hmm. And I had sort of an epiphany about the Black Lives Matter thing. Because I got really mad with people last summer when that went on, and because I felt like people were also going along with the nonsense.
Yeah.
They were afraid of saying anything. But then I realized, I think maybe that because you tend to think that most people are like you. People tend to think that their internal world is similar to other people's internal world. And I can honestly say, if I stood before God right now, I don't remember anything, at least. I could, with a clear conscience, say, I don't think I've ever given anyone the short end of the stick because of their race. I've never even used a racial slur except to call my friend in high school a wetback, and he would call me a gringo, and it was fun. But like, I never even in private, because it's just
same here. Yeah.
it's just low. It felt uncouth.
Yeah.
You know, like I've never, like I don't understand these Biden people that just when people turn around, they're just like screaming slurs through their text messages. Like, what are you doing? Like, what?
Like, yeah, normal people don't text each other that way.
But see, that's the thing. I think you and I don't.
Well, yeah.
But then I thought, because that's the way I am, and that's the way you are. But then I was like, you know, what if all these people fell for this so bad because they are sort of like that?
Mm-hmm.
Because there was this one short guy, and he's short. He's short. And he's dumb. He's a friend from high school who's short and dumb. And he went out on that so hard. Like, he was telling, and I was like, and he started talking about how in our city there was so much racism, and people, I was like, and I called him, I said, you know that's not true. I mean, what are you talking about? What? And then I realized, thinking, I was like, oh, right. He's the short little stupid guy that's afraid of a black person being on the street and does call the cops on them.
Yeah.
Just for being there. Right. Okay. These people are like that, maybe. Mm-hmm. Maybe they are just so awkward around black people they just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And so then I thought, oh, maybe, and so maybe all these other people are so callous inside that they would kill grandma to get a sandwich. And so then they felt guilty when someone called them out on that behavior and said, you're going to kill grandma by getting a sandwich. And they were like, because I was like, I'm not a person that kills grandma getting a sandwich.
Yeah.
But maybe they are.
Maybe.
Like maybe that's why they fell for it so hard. Like maybe.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I just, I don't know why people did that, but maybe their interior, maybe they're just rotten. I don't know. But
I mean, I really don't want to believe that about
I
people
don't either. But
that fell for it.
Let's play that other clip.
All right, here it comes.
Back in 2017, you had expressed concerns about the membership of the all-white Bailey's Beach Club, said that you hoped it would become more diverse. Now, your family's been members, your wife is one of the largest shareholders. Has there been any traction in that? Are there any minority members of the club now?
I think the people who are running the place are still working on that, and I'm sorry it hasn't happened yet.
Do you have concerns in 2021? I mean, obviously it's been 4 years. You had remarks on the floor following the deaths of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd saying, hoping to root out systemic racism in the country. Your thoughts on an elite, all-white, wealthy club, again, in this day and age? Should these clubs continue to exist?
It's a long tradition in Rhode Island, and there are many of them. I think we just need to work our way through the issues. Thank
you. Who was that? He's some kind of state senator or something. Who's that guy?
I think he's a congressman.
Is congressman? Yeah, from Rhode Island.
Rhode Island, like a federal congress. His name is Senator Whitehouse.
Okay,
Rhode Island.
Yep.
And he said, should there be an all-white beach club in Rhode Island? He said, well, it's a long tradition.
Gosh.
What a great...
Like, where do you live that, like, all white clubs are a long tradition?
What do you...
Like, what sort of set do you run with if you're in an all white club? Like, come on.
Senator, he's the senator. He's a Democratic senator from Rhode Island, and his answer to why do you go to an all white country club, like a white exclusive? First of all, how's that even legal?
Right.
I thought that was supposed to be illegal. I guess maybe I don't know. Is it I don't know how that would work unless it's by donation, maybe. Because I think if you're doing business, you can't, like, if it's commerce.
Yeah.
But anyway, and he's like, yeah, well, it's a long tradition.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? Boys will be boys.
And I love how, like, 4 years ago, he was like, yeah, we're going to change it. We're going to get some more minorities. And they got 0. And she's like, it's been 4 years. Could you have found a brown person? He's like, no. Oh, it's hard. They're looking around for anyone that was slightly, no. We're working on it still. And there was no outrage over this.
Yep.
This was no one, because it's all, these people are just liars. I need you to understand that. They're simply lying.
And it's funny because like that guy and the people that voted for him would probably say like, oh, the southern states need to root out racism. They've got such a long history of racism. In fact, there are many people of color in Rhode Island that would love to live down south, and we're going to send them down there to diversify the South.
They've literally said that.
Like
I've heard them say that.
I can see them doing this with a straight face. It's like, yeah, we're going to deport all our colored people to mess with the South. It's like these people are so disgusting.
But it's because they live in this tower of this house of cards of lies.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're like, if I just say I'm not racist enough, then that's why they need to say it so much. Like normal people that don't walk around calling cops on black people just don't feel the need to constantly say that.
Right.
Because it's like when we were growing up, you would call each other gay as a silly insult. But it didn't matter because you knew that you weren't. So
right.
It was like, yeah, whatever. But now people get offended because they are secretly gay. That's what I figured out.
Yeah.
Like they're like, oh, he knows that I'm gay. Oh no, I can't let him. Shut up, man! Don't call me. Get defensive.
Yeah,
it could be offensive to Joe, who's actually gay. Not me though. I'm not.
Yeah.
For sure. I'm totally straight. Like, or if you call someone it's like if someone calls me, I'm like, what? What are you talking about? But if you call these other people like racist, they flip out.
Oh, they'll lose it. Yeah.
I don't know. Like I've spent times in my life, I've lived and worked in places where the proportion of white people to black people was basically the same as if I was in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And it was always fine. I don't know, but people are. When you call them that, they flip out. It's like, and they call them gay, they flip out. And that's why they flip out now if you call people retarded, because they're all neurodivergent. They're vaccine damaged or something.
Yeah.
They have nothing, they're just, they don't understand sarcasm. They don't understand how to interact with human beings. They don't anything. They don't understand how to. So that's what I was thinking. Like these people that say these things, that's this song of, it doesn't matter what I say as long as I sing with inflection that makes you feel that I'll convey some inner truth or reflection. That's the whole game. Because they're just saying it, and they just keep saying it. We're going to work on that. There's much work to do. Yes, it's been 4 years, and no, I haven't found anyone black in that time that wants to go to the beach. It's been impossible. Black people don't like swimming. I don't know. They can't swim. They can't swim very well, and we got a bunch of watermelon to getting them out there with fried chicken, but it just didn't work, and so we ate the watermelon. And then I don't know. We tried a taco party and no Mexicans showed up. We had a fiesta on the beach. Who knows? That's like.
But we tried so hard.
We tried so hard. It's like they literally.
It's like Wile E. Coyote trying to set a trap for the Roadrunner.
I mean, they wore kente cloth.
I know.
In the Senate.
How ridiculous and patronizing.
What are you? They are either.
Yeah.
They're either all retarded, and that's why they get upset when you call them that.
Right.
Or the opposite. I think it's both. I think most people are just retarded and going along with it because they're covered in shame and guilt and fear. And so they just go along with stuff and they freak out when other people freak out because,
Mm-hmm.
But there's a subset of them that are mastermind evil geniuses who are just like, yeah, well, look, everything you do, the black magic works by doing the opposite. It's always the opposite. Like if we just tell we tell all the black children that they are constantly oppressed by white people, and then they'll grow up believing that, and then they will be because they'll act it out.
Yeah.
And we'll tell little Jesse that she's a slave master when she's 7. And then when she grows up, she'll feel like that.
Mm-hmm.
And she'll act, and it's...
I think a lot of people become actual racists because they were called racist one too many times. Like,
Yeah,
the spell eventually works.
It does. Like,
yeah.
That's why you can't fall for the trap. You just have to not...
Yeah, you can't.
This is why you can't care what people think about you.
Right.
Because that's like St. Philip Neri. He's one of my favorites. He used to shave off half his beard just so people would laugh at him. You have one bearded side because he wanted to not care about what people thought. And people are like, you're a racist. And then they start to become racist. And that is a real phenomenon that happens.
These poor young white kids end up in these psychotic neo-Nazi sort of outfits run by federal informants. The reason that those arguments work on them is because every school teacher that they ever sat under, browbeat them and called them a racist for their entire education. And they knew it wasn't true, and it hurt them and it wounded them. And eventually they just got so mad about it. They were so sick of it. They're like, fine, I will be a racist. And then they go hang out with these feds running these, these neo-Nazi groups or whatever. That's exactly what happens.
That is what happens. And I think, like I said, there's a small cabal, if you will, or a small group of masterminds that want that to happen because they want to keep black people down, and they want racist white, because that's how
God forbid we ever get over it and move past all this baloney that happened 3 or 4 generations ago. Heaven forbid we actually forgive each other and get along.
Yeah.
Right? I hear a lot of calls for apologies for all sorts of things, but I don't ever hear anybody saying we should forgive these people.
Yeah.
Not to mention that nobody living actually did anything. But let's just assume that the guilt is transferable across generations among people. Okay? Who's out there calling for forgiveness?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Because they don't know what that... They don't even know what that means. It's not a word, because you can't forgive when you live in a state of lies, because the things if you forgive it, then the house falls down.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And this is why America is going to collapse in some way. It's guaranteed at this point. What that looks like is hard to say. Is it civil war? I don't think that's likely, because everyone's too fat and lazy and cowardly to fight.
Yep.
You have to be somewhat courageous to have a civil war. You need people that are somewhat... Maybe it could, though. Who knows? Is it just descent into debt slavery and serfdom? That's my bet at the moment. Is it they need to ramp things up so they go to war with China? And I don't know. Who knows? Currency collapse? Maybe. But it is a house of cards made of lies, and eventually the truth is going to blow it down. How long that takes, who knows? But it's written into the cards that this thing is going to fall apart. And everyone's doing, even the people like the conservatives or whatever, they'll get up there and they'll have if anytime a black person says something they agree with slightly, they fawn all over them.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh yeah, look at him, he's based and red-pilled, and he knows he's not. This is why Candace Owens is popular. She doesn't say anything overly interesting. She's just black. And then you say to the people she's fine, but you say to the people, you're just being a race fetishist.
Yeah.
If a white guy said the same thing, or an Asian, you wouldn't be putting them on the radio every day.
Yeah.
But it's the same. Everyone is broken, and they're just, I don't know what to do about it.
They're in spasms, trying not to be what they're afraid of being, because they think somebody's going to think they're racist or a bigot or whatever, and so they contort their whole life and their belief system, and they twist things around so that they can prove that they're not this horrible thing. It's it doesn't matter what they call you.
Yeah,
It doesn't
here's
matter.
Here's the thing, guys. You are capable of being much worse than anything they can call you.
Yeah.
I mean, the
Yep.
depths of darkness inside your soul, you have not even begun to plumb. Right? For most people.
And it's not them. And it's not them you have to stand before at the end of your life. When you die, you're not going to stand before like Anderson Cooper,
Or Abram.
and he's not going to weigh you on the scales of justice. You're going to stand before Almighty God.
What if he is there? Like, what if
Man,
what if St. Peter looks just like Anderson Cooper?
it's gonna be
Yeah,
uncomfortable.
it's me.
It's gonna be uncomfortable.
Like, is that you, Anderson Pooper? Yeah, it will be uncomfortable. But so with my epiphany regarding why people fell into BLM and stuff, and that they're just race fetishing. I mean, that's not really an epiphany. That's just obvious with the black Candace Owens and stuff. I want to propose before we wrap up our political thing here. The most radical conspiracy that I've ever come up with.
Ooh,
Are you ready?
fire away.
It's not even. I didn't really come up with it. It's been floating around for a bit. But what about this? Here's a conspiracy theory for you. Maybe the government isn't bad.
You're insane, man.
I know. I was thinking, but with that population that feels so, they must have some sort of motivation inside to feel that level of guilt and be that susceptible to saying you're a slave master. Maybe they need that. Maybe they are everything that they are claiming they are, and I just didn't see it because I'm not and you're not, and our listeners aren't.
Yeah.
Could that be? And there's this idea you get the government you deserve. Maybe that's just the people screaming about gun control. What they're saying is, I can't be trusted with a gun.
Yeah, I mean that is what they're saying.
That's what they're like. Because people are always projecting their internal state onto others.
Right.
And so if I had a gun, I don't know what, I'd just go and shoot it.
It's right.
Blow
Really,
my own head off.
These women are take my husband's gun away, take my father's gun away, and but they don't want to say that, so they're like, government, take every man's gun away.
Yes, because maybe their husband can't be trusted.
Yeah,
and
right.
A lot of them can't be. Right?
And the only solution they can think of is rebuild our entire civilization around their problem.
Because they can't admit we're the problem.
Yeah, yeah.
Or the men that are we need more laws to protect women. What they're saying is, I can't be trusted around women in the workplace. I just do random rape. Mm-hmm. Imagine the person, because this is another thing. People are like, rape is an epidemic and it's awful. I was like, is it? In America? But then I realized, I'm maybe I'm just not the sort of person that rapes people.
Yeah.
And so that is foreign to me. But really, there's millions of Americans walking around just on the verge. If they had the opportunity, they just right then.
Yeah.
And maybe that's true.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it would explain why people think that this
would
way.
Explain why, because I had a friend who I don't associate with anymore. Not my choosing, his choosing. And one time he called me up in a panic and he said, "Can you come?" And he didn't explain what it was. So I came up there and I drove, I took off work. He said, and I get there and he said, he's just telling me that he needed help and he was afraid he might go to jail or something. And I was like, what happened? And I eventually got out of him that he'd been over at a girl's house the night before, woke up and she had a knife to his throat saying, "I want your confession." Sexual assault or rape or whatever. And I was like, "Did you do that?" And he was like, "No, but I thought it was," and it was this weird story. And I believed him at the time because he did have a history of psycho women. But then I realized maybe I just am too trusting about the people that I think I know. And a lot of these people are just psycho and do I don't know. He didn't end up they ended up making peace. And no law enforcement was involved to my knowledge. But I don't. I mean, maybe people are just like that, and I just assumed that they weren't. But maybe America, let's reevaluate. Maybe all these people that are out there saying these things, maybe they aren't virtue signaling so much as guilt signaling. Maybe they're doing that, they're saying, that's who I am. And they want to say that that's everybody because that makes it easier to admit.
Well, nobody feels the need to virtue signal more than the guilty.
Yeah. And so because the people that would kill grandma felt the worst about possibly killing grandma with COVID.
Yeah.
Like I remember, there was this family member, she was older and she died. And she had a lot of kids and their kids they just fell into absolute bickering about this estate. And I remember saying to them, I wasn't one of the ones in line for the estate. But I remember thinking, A, it's not that much, right?
Mm-hmm.
B, a lot of you people are pretty old anyway, and you don't have much time to do anything with it.
Yeah.
Like, really, what are you gonna do? And then, but that level of like, the moment grandma's gone, they just become vultures, and that's what they always were. See, but they just keep a lid on it until it's. Maybe that's what we're looking at. Maybe the government is not that bad, and they're trying to get serfdom because that will provide the most people with the best life.
Well, our society has lost its virtue, and if your society has no virtue, probably the only way to hold it together is if most people are serfs.
That's what I'm beginning to think, and maybe this is like. Because this is the opposite trap. It's like if you call people racist, they begin to act racist. Because they fall to it, because they and so now you've got people like on the right. The left has been doing this for a while, but on the right also are like the government is become evil, and we can't trust the cops, and this, that, and the other thing. And there's merit to that, We've seen what cops are capable of that are unconstitutional and stuff. I mean, I see why people think that, but also, like, look around at your fellow citizens. They're like meth heads, even if they're not on meth.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't even know to not stick things in their butts. How are they supposed to be governed? Right? And because the cop, like, again, this is why you got to practice gratitude all the time. This keeps you from these mistakes. Like, okay, like, take the internet. Does YouTube censor a lot of stuff? Yes. That is not fun. That's unfortunate. It's a big hassle for people, especially content creators and stuff. However, also, does YouTube provide us with lots of nice information about how to raise chickens, or how to build a thing, or how to repair your car. It's an infinite resource for information.
Yeah,
on how to do things. So be grateful for that, and maybe just think. Maybe that is the right move. Like, maybe there are a bunch of people just on the verge of going psycho in this country. And we know there are. They were so willing to be called on this last year to just go burn down things. And the government realizes that and says, anyone that gets close to saying that, we need to maybe that's like, I just played with this. Maybe they're not so bad.
It's kind of telling how the Washington types just completely lost their minds over the January 6th thing. And that just tells you that their view of America is basically the American people are a bunch of cannibals that are going to eat them alive at the first opportunity.
And they may not be wrong.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing. Like, I mean, they did erect a guillotine a couple times. Now, that could have been feds doing the show.
So I think
it's impossible to say, really.
Yeah.
But I know from my interactions with people online that's there under the surface anyway. And I don't maybe when they talk about, because they don't really do anything to the people that aren't insane.
Yeah.
Have you noticed? It's like there's all this. It's like I think there's a coded message of maybe, and this is not. I'm for sure the government is corrupt in a lot of ways and stuff, but just think about it from another angle. Maybe this is all revealing to be of what your fellow citizens are, and the government is responding in an appropriate manner to that sort of populace.
Well, and it's sort of in a I guess a corollary. Nothing was going to protect our so-called constitutional rights if we as a people are unfit for them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to butcher the quote, and I don't remember which founding father said it, but it was something like the Constitution was written for a Christian people and is unfit for any other.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was, I think he said a moral and religious people.
A moral and religious people. There you go.
It may be moral and Christian. I don't remember.
Something like that. The point is, there's a certain level of fitness that the people, we have to attain to in order to deserve / maintain, have these rights. And there's nothing, if we don't have that virtue, there's nothing we can do to keep the rights. The rights are born out of the virtue. That's the thing. The rights come from your virtue. If you don't have virtue, you don't have rights.
Amen. And think about it. Maybe they're just giving people exactly what they like. How many trads for so long have been asking for monarchy, and they're like, okay, neo-feudalism then, right? That's like everyone serfs, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing how that works. It's like we are oppressed, and it's like, okay, right. Okay, then everyone's slaves, right? That what we're going with? And they're like, yeah, like right, okay. Let's do that. And that's what it feels like sometimes. I mean...
Yeah. Well, there's this ratcheting effect. It's like every time we change anything, it more closely aligns with our virtue as a people.
Yes.
Every time there's a big disaster or a big blow up, the BLM thing happened, the COVID thing happened, whatever. At the end of it, when the dust settles, we're a little bit closer to what we deserve.
Yeah. And I found that... That's true on which side of what you deserve.
Yeah.
Like, I felt that I came out of 2020 in a much better position in a lot of ways.
Yeah, so did I, actually.
And I'm not trying to be like, oh, I'm so great, but I feel like things are better.
Yeah.
And I'm on a better track. And I think that a lot of people went the opposite direction.
Right. I think most of the country went the opposite direction.
I think as these traumas that they can, like the climate lockdown that will come, the whatever else the thing is, as people continue to like be upset about China, and then just doom scrolling all day and getting hooked on meth and doing the porn and all that, they will just continue to fall one way or the other. It's like a separation of wheat and chaff. Like the separator. But yeah, maybe that's my conspiracy theory to ponder, is like maybe they're not so bad. Like, people are taking on debt at tremendous rates. How do we help them?
It's like
make the money go down.
Yeah.
Like, maybe that's really what they like. Think about that. Like, what if there are people legitimately trying to help an insane population
will devalue the level of their debt. Yeah.
That is up to their eyeballs in debt. And they're like, what can we do for these people? Inflate the currency so it's easier to repay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, who knows? But, you know, I tend to doubt that there are virtuous people running but maybe.
No, I think maybe like that it's a rising necessarily independent of scheming, powerful, conspiring people or whatever. You know, it's just it's going to happen one way or another, and people are always going to do what they're going to do while that's going on.
Yeah, because the other thing is how much of this is even real, and how much of it is just to suck your energy and drive you to be a chaff separator. Because think about it, that senator. All right, he's being accused of having a private club, a private dwelling for just white people, and his name is a White House. Is that real?
Yeah.
Like, this is what I keep going back to. Like, are these just tells? Like, that guy that was apparently a shooter the other day was named Henchman.
Really? Are you serious?
Yeah, did you see that he was the shooter
No.
and his last name was Hinchman or something? Hinchman.
Are we back to shooters now? Is that a thing again? I guess it is.
No, I don't know. There was a guy, and he was. I was just saying because these names they keep popping up, and everyone's like the guy they're trying to get to rat on Trump, who used to work with Trump, is named Weaselberg.
What?
He used to work with Trump, and is like, we got to get him to tell about his taxes and like shady things. Like,
Talk about a bad hire.
Come on, Mr. Weaselberg. Like no one could have suspected.
I'm Melvin Weaselberg.
No one ever
Very
suspected
trustworthy
anything shady
personal
out of a guy
accountant.
named Weaselberg.
Yeah.
Like
I'll be your attorney.
It's like everything is tailor made to fall into this script of like, here's a covetous Jew for you to hate, you right wingers. He's attacking Trump. His name is Weaselberg. Now go crazy. Are you going to go crazy? Like, is it just a lie? I don't know. Like, and here's, you Democrat, you don't like racism? Here's a guy, his name is White House, and he keeps only whites in his house. And it's like, what? It's all, I just get this repetitive, like it's just Wayne Sexton all over again forever.
Yeah.
Because I don't know.
I can forgive you for feeling that way.
It's so, if you just pay attention, like if your consciousness rises, like people listen to that whole song, The Hook Brings You Back, and they sing along with it, not realizing it's mocking them the whole time. And then I think like, well, is this like, oh yeah, listen, this guy's name's White House. He has a house just for whites. And everyone's like, oh, that's so awful, or I'm so mad. Look at the hypocrisy from the Democrats. They're the real racists. And they're just going, da-da brings you back. Because that's the hook. It's the hook. It's like, oh yeah, how about a little bit of shame? How about a little bit of guilt? How about a little bit of outrage? And that's the hook, and it brings you back.
I used to be that upset Republican that would say, like, can you imagine if the situation were reversed?
Yeah, that's the hook. That's one of the hooks.
Yeah.
It brings you back. Every time you start to get away, they're like, hey, this guy, he runs a whites-only country club. Aren't you mad? And you go, Arr! Or they're like, they're getting mad at you for being racist, and they're like, hey, did you see that Justin Trudeau just did blackface all the time? Are you going to be angry? And get... Because they're always trying to, I'm going to be guru again, they're always trying to lower your consciousness back down. You start to get out of it, you start to like, go about your day, spend time with family and friends, not be staring into the computer, not wrapped up in the narrative. And then they're like, then they just sing the chorus again, and you sing along.
And
that's
it's
the whole
hard.
Thing
like
the Pied Piper.
It's not. I mean, it's not easy. I have a hard time not getting sucked into it, and I know what's going on. It does work. Like it is effective.
Yeah, the Pied Piper played a tune and led the people to their destruction. And that's what this is. I think a lot of this isn't real. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's like how many of these weird names, like the guy that burned down the jewelry district in Manhattan where all the Jews are was named Israel Burns. That's not real.
Yeah,
That's a made up thing. Or the there's so many of these.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not. They're just people, and I don't know what that means about how reality works. But
well, it's funny. Like if there are people out there, I think that part of the idea is if they make us think that there are people out there doing this crazy stuff, then no one will actually go out and do it. Because it's like, oh, somebody else is doing it. I'm just gonna live vicariously through this fake story, and I'm not gonna like go postal or whatever. Because they think we're all on the verge of like going postal and tearing them apart.
That could be what it is. But I don't. Yeah, I don't know.
It's like a psychic pressure release valve for everybody or something.
Everything is it's getting so insane, and people don't just stand up and say, this is weird. Like, you've got, there's a weird old man who's cut off his genitals running for the governor of California. And
I think he
everyone's
still
like,
has his genitals.
No.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
he did the deed, huh?
Yeah. And everyone's like, and then he says, I'm going to fight the homeless. People just clap.
Like physically?
He was like, we got to fight the homeless problem.
I'd pay to see that, man.
Everyone is so psychotic, and everything is not. I don't know. But that's my conspiracy theory to ponder. Maybe the government is just doing its best. Maybe that's just what it can do, given these absolute psychos that we're all around all the time.
Maybe I know that on some level, and that just explains my total revulsion at the idea of ever running for any office.
I think we all know that on some level, and I think some of our conspiracy is cope for just avoiding the utter depravity of the people in the world.
Yeah,
including ourselves, because a lot of it maybe is our fault. Anyway, don't. Like, they're trying to do that now. Biden's like, oh yeah, you know what? If you want to overthrow the government, you better bring F-15s. He's just like calling.
Yeah.
It's like call response. It's like this weird siren song where they're like, come do something stupid. And people are like, the hook brings them back because they just get, and it's the Pied Pipers just leading you away. And it's like, why don't do a civil war, guys.
Yeah.
Don't just.
It's like, it doesn't matter if Biden says something retarded about you better have some nukes. That doesn't matter at all.
Nukes aren't even real.
He's a senile old man.
Nukes aren't even real, and he has dementia.
Yeah.
And the vice president used to date Montel Williams. None of it matters.
Really?
It's all stupid. And you're just freaking out about increasingly stupid things.
Yeah.
It's like it. So anyway, just everyone relax. Don't let the hook bring you back. You know?
There you go. You know, through the whole COVID.
I think the White House guy. I think they just made that up, just to, because it's too convenient for him to be named. I mean, they may as well have had a guy named McBigotry. I'm Shaughnessy McBigotry, and I run. I mean, Chauvin the chauvinist had George Floyd, and on camera, it was everything for everybody. It was like, here's a white guy named chauvinist holding someone down, and there's a perfect angle of him dying for some reason for like 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Why is this camera there for? And just beforehand, or at least a little later, he's dancing with a banana. It's like, here's something for the racist. Here's something for the people that think there's a police. It's a perfect spell to give everyone ample opportunity to get mad.
Yeah.
And go insane. And I'm beginning to be like, that's just that's just fake. It's like, because and his George Floyd's brother's named Felonious.
Really?
Felonious Floyd. Yeah, his name is Felony. It's Felonious Floyd, and he's dancing with, and his teacher is Waynell Sexton, and he's like, do, and then he also, you can also play the conservatives like, oh, I'm not racist, but I also think the cops are always right angle of like, oh, he died of fentanyl. It's the perfect, and he had coronavirus. He had all of it. It's like,
it did have something for everybody, didn't it?
Any angle you wanted to take on it, you could take.
Yeah.
And that's what made it the perfect spell to gin up anger and division. And I think, I bet the guy that played George Floyd, they sailed him to Mexico the day after, and he's still alive in Cancun.
It's chilling.
I think that is probably what happened. And I think Derek Chauvin got convicted, and they shipped him off to a prison, and then the next day, some GI men showed up, and they handed some papers and said, we're moving him to a secure facility, and they took him out, and then they flew him to Aruba. And that's just what, because the week after Jeffrey Epstein died, quote unquote, that drone caught a picture of him on the island. Remember that?
I do. Yeah, I do remember that.
He's not dead. What are you talking about?
The whole thing with his ear, the pictures of the the dead body and the ear not matching. That was not him.
It wasn't.
Sorry.
Remember, they lied about everything. Why aren't they lying about? And I get this is where you start to, because then you start to be like, as someone pointed out to me, I'm at this like, well, you say everything's fake and gay, but why not the things you think are fake? I'm like, that's true. I sometimes think the things I think are fake and gay. But like they just did that, and then and because they wanted, like, Jeffrey Epstein's getting too much heat. Let's pretend to kill him, and then he's back at the island, and no one will ever know. You give him a little bit of plastic surgery, no one will ever know.
Yep.
And they won't. They won't even care. And
he doesn't even need the plastic surgery because everybody just says, no, he killed himself, you idiot.
Yeah, he killed himself. That can't be him. He's dead.
Nobody's gonna report on that. That reporter that did the story on Clinton and what's her name, the vice president. See how little I care for these people.
Yeah.
The tarmac meeting thing. The guy who reported that, the one mainstream media guy that like went out on a limb and blew that open, he's dead.
Yeah, he's dead. Or
he's
is
dead.
He? Or is he?
You could have 50 reporters all see Jeffrey Epstein at the bar, and they're not going to say anything.
I mean, it goes back. This pattern I'm beginning to see. It's like, that was true of Adolf Hitler too. There are pictures of him in Argentina after the war was over, of like a guy that looks just like him.
Yeah.
In the German, and it's like, did he kill himself? Did Epstein kill himself? This just these actors come on the stage, they do the will of whoever this is, and they exit the stage to a foreign country, and they just, I don't know. But it's increasingly, I'm like, because all these things, it's a melody played by the Pied Piper, and the hook brings you back. It's like, this is why death was so often in medieval art depicted with a flute. Like, come on. He's playing it, or a harmonica maybe, and he's playing it, and you go along and you get the outrage or the lust or the greed. Like, everything you see in the media all the time is like, it is inducing anger, lust, greed, or like rage or jealousy.
Mm-hmm.
All the time. And it's like, come on, a little bit further, and it's just leading you down the primrose path to death. And yeah, I don't know. But before we finish, I've been told by someone that it was a podcaster, that if we're serious about podcasting, we have to ask people for things.
Oh, what are we going to ask for?
Like a review on iTunes.
Oh, a 5-star review on your podcasting platform of choice would really help us out.
That really helps us. Or tell a friend about the show.
Ooh,
that
also a good suggestion. Yeah.
Yeah.
Assuming you have any friends.
Because this person that was a podcaster, he was like, listen, it's weird, but it's like if you run a YouTube channel, you don't ask to like, subscribe, and hit the smash the like button or the notification.
Smash the like button.
It just doesn't work. It's just the way the platform's set up. It's just if you want people. So he said you got to ask people to review. You got to ask people to share it. And then if you guys want to sign up for the St. Nicholas Project and get on the Nicholas list and receive extra podcasts, get a little bit of, give us a little bit of help every month, that would be great too.
Yep, that would be great.
So that's 3 things that you could do. You don't have to do all of them. You don't have to do any of them, but maybe do one of them. Just if you enjoy the show, just tell.
If we've ever helped you at all.
Yeah. Just leave a review or something. That'd be great. And I don't like asking, but they said that that's how you play the podcast game. So there you go. They said that, and I think that's true. I've noticed that the listeners actually do help the most. Like the word of mouth and telling people is like the best thing.
It is, really is.
It's really it's like algorithms and stuff. It's like people saying like, I like this show, and that's really the best way to help the show.
Yep, that's how we get most of our listeners. Is just you tell somebody about it.
Yeah, tell someone about it. Maybe get on the nice list and help us out financially. Maybe leave a review. Whatever you want to do. But anyway, don't follow the Pied Piper. Don't let the hook bring you back. I ain't telling you no lie. Suck it in, suck it in, suck it in. If you're in Tintin. Great song.
Hey, I'll get a link up to the St. Nicholas Project up on the website, which I forgot to do last week, but I'll get that up. So if you want to find all those things, you can go to mapsoc.org.
Yeah.
mapsoc.org.
Yeah.
You can find us
Yeah.
there.
And if you've already left us a comment, I'm not asking you to do it again, like a review on iTunes. Just if you haven't.
Yeah.
Just because those little 5 stars, or
I mean, if
4.
all of you did it, we could have like 25 reviews.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Which is more than most podcasts get. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
I don't know. We were up so late last night. We did 3 hours on the Boiler Room. You guys should go listen to that one.
It was awesome.
Will that be
But
out
yeah,
by the
we were
time
up
this
late.
one comes out?
I don't know. I don't know how long they. You have to ask Ruckus about that.
It came out. We were doing it live at the time. And we decided on that show that in a little while, maybe a few weeks, we're gonna try to do a live listener call-in show.
Yeah.
Where people call in and just tell us about your weird experiences.
Yes.
Just to hear from some of our friends. Like
we'll probably run this through the ACR Discord. So if you want to get on there, download your Discord and find the Alternate Current Radio server.
Yep.
And then if you go to alternatecurrentradio.com, you can find it there. And that's probably where we'll end up running the live show. But that'll give you guys a chance to call in. I think we're going to talk about your paranormal experiences.
That may be where we end up running this show. We just told Spore last night that we were recording Slack, and she laughed at us out loud.
Yeah, I got straight dressed down for... You use Slack to record a podcast?
You amateurs, what are you doing? And we felt sad and embarrassed.
We got taken back behind the woodshed by Spore.
We did. We were like, we don't know what we're doing. You're the professional podcasters.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's why we joined ACR, so we could get that expert guidance.
True. Like
we need their tutelage.
I tell you this is how bad I am. Remember, I got my new mic working. I don't know if you can tell, listeners, but maybe I sound a little better. But I don't have as many microphone unplugs, which is good. But the first week I couldn't get it to work, and I figured out why. It's because they've had an extra volume knob on the back that I didn't know about.
This will get you
0, and I was sitting there going, "Hello, hello, I can't hear you." And we spent like 30. That's what I'm dealing with.
It's very frustrating for me.
I know. That's what Smokestack's dealing with. So, like, what?
But we've overcome. We're always overcoming.
So maybe,
adapt and overcome.
Maybe we'll record the show. We might one day in the not so distant future maybe do the show also live on the Discord.
Mm-hmm.
So people can be on and they can talk with us while we're doing it.
That'd be a lot of fun. We're gonna have to switch up the time
because if you monsters I could not trust you with a microphone.
No,
because you'd be interrupting
certainly
all the time.
Not.
But with a text, and we could read your text and stuff, and that could be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's if you have an interesting story about like a time you saw a ghost or an angel or a UFO, time you had an out of body experience. Maybe your theories on the NWO and the Great Reset, whatever it is, we're just gonna have a little campfire show. Around we talk to each other.
Yeah,
because that's what we did last night, and it was a lot of fun. So,
and as you're preparing for that show, write down your experience.
Yeah.
Because this is an old producer tip here for you. I won't charge you. If you have a story and you think it's great, write it down. And then read it back to yourself, and if it's still great, it's actually a good story. Yeah. But then when you read it back, if you read it back and it's not very good, then maybe it's not a very good story.
Here's the problem: most people are not entertaining.
That's true. So we're gonna need only our entertaining listeners to call in.
No, we need any listeners, but we're gonna need you to bring your A game.
Yeah, just bring your A game.
And I know you're capable of it.
But we believe in you. All right. Well, should I start the rollout? I've still got to pack. I'm going out of town, buddy.
Me too. I think I gotta. I'm gonna try to go flamping.
What's flamping?
Fly camping. You fly to your campsite.
Oh, sweet.
Like glamping, but with it.
Are you a pilot now? No.
I mean, I've been doing a lot. I'm getting closer.
Okay.
I flew my first sort of cross-country flight, which is defined as anything more than... You fly from one airport to another airport.
Yeah, man.
That's fun. Until then, I've just been going up and down at the same airport.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a little bit like fly to a different airport. And every airport you have to approach a little differently. So
Right on.
Okay, I guess that's all. Don't. I don't know, man. I don't think things are real. Except, I think you're real, listener. And we love you.
We're ready to believe you.
We are ready to believe you. You know, it was good. We had to get a lot of that out of the way. The politics build up like a stopped up cola.
Yeah, I feel a great sense of relief now.
Yeah, and then you have to get it out, and then you can talk about real things later. But people have so many questions, like, is Biden trying to get me to... That's what he sounded to be. But that's just the Pied Piper. Don't do that.
Don't do it.
Don't.
It's a trap.
Don't do any violence. Don't even freak out about the internet. It's all dumb.
Yeah, don't get
It's all
upset.
fake. It really is fake on a level that you don't even understand.